going over, ladies and gentlemen. This is your neighborhood friendly coach, trainer, promoter, 43-year-old professional wrestler. And on October 20th of this year, I'm going to be able to say, yeah, oh, Zack Primetime Reeb. And I'm joined alongside my podcast partner, the Wrecking Ball, 7 feet of him. Paul is Adora. And Paul, how are you doing? It is getting to be a late night.
It's a late one, man. We had to squeeze one in, so that's what
Squeeze
happens,
one
man.
in, rub one out.
When you got some obligations.
Yeah,
So
we
I
had
don't know, man.
we, we had
We did, yeah,
wrestlers
we
on.
did have Rick. I know you were about to say we had Rick. Yeah, we had Rick on here.
We
Oh,
had the
that was a
aggressive
was a
Rick
good
Luxury
talk.
on the program. The aggressive Rick Luxury on the program, and I had to reel him in a little bit because he was acting like we were on a phone conversation with just me and him. And I'm like, nah, bud, this is going over. We are the politically correct. Don't mention things. Don't mention names. Don't mention promotions unless we're talking about people in a positive light. And I wanted to shoot a topic on you here tonight. I wanted to shoot a topic on you. And I know we always talk about it. And I know one of the things that you hate the most, because I really know you now, man. I know that if I'm at a store and I'm like, what is big? I'm going to a Big Paul Isadora wrestling show. I'm going to Reno Wrestle Factory. And I think I'm going to bring Paul a nice big snack so he doesn't get hangry. I'm like, oh, look at those nice flat Parmesan and garlic pretzels. Because I know you like those those Parmesan pretzels. But one thing I also know that Big Paul hates, and he hates when someone's bending the rules and the referee gets up to a 4 count, almost to a 5, sometimes 5, and the heel or baby face, because it doesn't seem to really matter much anymore, in the gray area, comes off and says, "Come on, ref, I've got till 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5." And I wanted to bring this up because I was talking to my coach today, and we really got in a deep conversation about what the rules of professional wrestling are. And I remember, you know, we know you can win the match by pinfall or submission, but what we found out from your show, what we've saw from the Big Show in WWE, Travis Alexander as well from your show, is that you can also win this contest by actual knockout. So just real quickly when we get started on this, tell us about, we're going to get into many rules and ways to use these, because I feel like the rules of professional wrestling do not even matter anymore. So how is a heel? How's a villain? How's he supposed to be vile? How's he supposed to cheat if we don't have these rules? So just real quick, your thoughts on the pinfall, submission, and the knockout.
Yeah, well, I think we've always known about certain ways to win. You know, pinfall and submission. We've always known about that. We've known about that you can win via count out. But back in the day, and I think we talked about this an episode or two ago, but you used to be able to win by throwing somebody over the top rope. You get disqualified for that. You used to be able to get disqualified for throwing a closed fist, right? But I just remember when we were talking to Sparky Ballard, he was talking about that. Like, how am I going to enforce the rules? I'm going to talk to the guys and ask them, do I need to follow you outside the ring? That way we can extend the count while you're outside the ring. Do I need to give you some leeway? So I think referees play a huge part in that, right? You kind of have to know what direction are these guys going? Where are they going to end up with this? So, you just mentioned a knockout. And I think about, if you think about, quote unquote, real combat sports, those are the things that you see on a regular basis, right? Those are the things that make fights exciting, is you have that expectation, like, this could end at any time because a guy could hit a lucky punch, right? Nobody's ever out of a contest because you always have a puncher's chance. So in Travis Alexander's case, he has that crucifix elbow, right? So he's just pounding this guy. And luckily, we had the photographer that was there. He got the actual shot, the last shot where he gets knocked out, and you just see, his eyes roll back into his head. So it's just it's crazy that those type of things happen. And I'm always surprised that it doesn't happen more, right? Because there's got to be an accidental, right? You don't plan to knock somebody out, but there's some guys that are a little more stiff than others, and maybe you're leaning in because you want to make it look good, and the guy clips you, right? But you never see that. You never see a guy go down and get pinned, or a guy go down and the referee stop it because the guy got knocked out. So I think when those type of things happen, it's a surprise for the fans, right? So, and then obviously in our case, it's a baby face that the fans are behind, and then that happens, and that's how he loses. So then it's complete, chaos. So I don't know, man. That's just I think it's a cool thing that you can use as a tool as a promoter to add an extra layer to it, right? It's not just going to end by submission or pinfall. It potentially a guy could get knocked out, right? So referee stoppage, something like that, right? So I think that's an awesome wrinkle that you can throw in there as a promoter.
Well, you're watching UFC, right? And I see so many guys get hit, and it looks like they're out. And the guy that just knocked him out or laid him down because he's not out cold stops and like looks at the ref like, and the ref's like, keep going. And the guy's like, oh, fuck, man, I got to keep going. And he jumps down there and he finishes him off. And I've seen it happen before where just that delay is enough recovery time where he looks at the ref and he jumps down on top of this guy to finish him off. And he's recovered in that 4 or 5 seconds and he survives to the buzzer, the clicker, and the next round starts. And sometimes that guy loses. And I think when you talk about a knockout blow, why can't we have for these younger guys out there, let's dabble around a little bit. Let's do some finishes where maybe we establish like that we're a knockout artist and we make the mistake of knocking our opponent down like that. And we think he's out. And the referee says, nice, his arm's still moving. Keep going. We can utilize these realistic finishes in pro wrestling, especially if the wrestler that threw the knockout blow is a striker. It could become a mistake in the storyline where he's like, okay, I learned my lesson because I feel I knocked this guy unconscious. I thought I won the match. The ref didn't think so. So because I didn't continue on this guy, he recovered and he came back and he beat me. I lost because I thought I knocked him out and the ref thought otherwise. And that's just you said a wrinkle here just a minute ago, but that's a really interesting finish right there. One that I really wanted to talk about is, and I want to go back to this, but one I wanted to get your opinion on is the abdominal stretch. So, I mean, just these simple things because the audience, when you're a bad guy, and we heard Sparky talk about Rick was so good at being a bad guy because he would cheat right in front of the referee all the way through the match, but the ref would never catch him cheating. And so it's like whether you run him off the ropes and you catch him with a couple knees, I like to call them the Val Venus knees, and then you slap him in that abdominal stretch. There's nothing greater than the guy reaching out to grab that rope, right? He grabs that rope, and as soon as he cinches down like that, the baby face in the abdominal stretch knows that that's him cinching up. So he's and then now the crowd's pointing it out. So you got the crowd involved, and then the ref starts running around and the guy pulls his arm. So the ref in the middle of this action sees the arm. He thought he saw the arm come off the ropes, and then he's looking at the rope, whether it's the manila hemp or the cable, and he sees it shaking a little bit. And now he starts looking around at the audience, and eventually the heel gets caught. Sometimes it ends in a hip toss over the top, but just something that simple. I'm using this rope for leverage in a simple abdominal stretch. That's one of my favorite favorite things, man. And you could get 2 or 3 minutes out of that damn thing and really get the crowd involved in something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely one of those. I mean, obviously that was the finish that we were going for with the Travis Alexander match, right? We wanted it to be, and I think you and I know what that finish looks like. We know how a guy is going to cheat like that and finally get caught. But again, we've talked about it before, how much you really need to lay these things out to some of these guys, because some of the younger guys, they have no idea what you're talking about when you say the abdominal stretch spot and the ref catches you, right? They don't, like, in that match, it was like he was thinking about cheating instead of grabbing the rope, right? Putting that extra pressure on the guy, having the ref come, just like you said, you let go of the rope, there's a little wobble to it. It makes him think, like, what was going on right there? Was he holding on to the rope or was he not? The fans are saying he was, but I didn't physically see it, so I can't, I can't get him in trouble for it, right? So I think those are the cool little things. You have that. You have a lot of different things. Obviously, you've seen the low blow or whatever, flip the guy over the back, catch him, with the little mule kick, where the referee doesn't see it because you're in front of him, and you kick the guy in the nuts because the guy's standing
I
behind you.
hate it. I hate that spot. I think that's the cheapest low blow spot in the game. Oh, I'm in a waist lock or something, and I pull the ref into me so he's close, and I throw a mule kick back and low blow him. It's like that spot is so overdone, man. When I see guys do that, and the creativity level of that is like, and it's what we're trying to talk about right now is being a little more creative with the rules. If the rules aren't there to be enforced, then how's a heel really going to get over? We're
Right.
we're we're just out here doing obvious things in front of the ref, and we're going, "Hey ref, I got till 5, or I broke off at 4, and I'm going to choke him again." And then you get these guys out here going, "Well, as long as you don't do the same thing twice, you can get away with it because he's warning you not to choke him. So now you can fish hook him. Now you can no, you can't. Once you bend those rules, the ref should be enforcing that and saying, hey, don't bend the rules, jackass. Because if you do bend these rules, I'm gonna throw this fucking match out, and you're gonna be done. It's like one thing that gets me is it used to be illegal to go to the top rope, like we were talking about going over the top rope, right? So why, when wrestlers go to the top rope now, is the referee saying, hey, get down from there? 1, 2, like, what are you counting this guy for? I do a frog splash. Adam Thornstowe did a double stomp. There's a big elbow. There's 450 splashes, shooting star presses, all kinds of twisting, super springboardy moves that people do from the top. If you're going to count the guy from the top rope for going up there and telling him to get down, then why the hell are you going to count the fall or even count the finish of the match if the guy jumps off the top rope on the guy, if you're counting him? I get if the rules say, hey, he's on the top rope, he's not supposed to be. That's a disqualification, man. If you know what I'm talking about, right? The guy's going up the top, and you see these refs all over the place going, hey, come on, get down from there. 1, 2. What are you counting him for if you're going to allow him to do the move from the top rope and you're still going to count the fall?
Right. Yeah, I think.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
and it's a bunch of stuff like that because obviously we're doing the same thing. The referees are doing the same thing when you're in the ropes, right? Because they're going to be, if you shoot a guy off the ropes after you have him in the ropes and you hit him with something, and I think that would fall into the same category. It's like now you've got the guy tied in the ropes, but now you're going to let him go, or you're, you know, the guy goes for a cover and you have your foot on the ropes or whatever, and then you just take your foot off and now it's okay. So I don't know. It's definitely, there's just gray area there, and we talked about the other day how you could establish within your promotion those rules where you can bring those things back. Where if you throw a guy over the top rope, if you jump off the top rope, those type of things where it could be a disqualification. But obviously, you just have to establish that with the fan base, so they know that if this thing happens, there's going to be a disqualification. You hit a guy with a move off the top rope. Sorry, you're disqualified. You lose the winner's end of the purse on that one. So you could definitely factor that in, and so I don't
There's
know.
there's ways to go about it. Here's one I was talking to the coach about. I was bringing it up. I said everybody goes up to throw that 10 punch, right? The
Yep.
baby face goes in that corner and he throws that 10 punch, and that's illegal. And the ref's counting above 5. That 10 punch count should come in a situation where he was saying like, "Oh, the ref has been bumped." And it's a heated match between, like, there's a reason why the fists are flying with this baby face and this heel. So the ref's down. So if you don't have anybody else do that 10 punch, and you keep these rules followed, and you keep those 10 punches off, by the time that baby face goes up there to deliver the 10 punch to that heel, that's a big that's big. That's huge, man. That's gonna get that baby face, I mean, that heel selling 10 punches to the face. Who could have thought, man? Or the baby face gets slapped in the face and he loses his mind and he just starts punching the heel, and the referee pulls the baby face off. Even if he was up there for that 10 punch count, the referee gets in the way and pulls him off and says, "Hey, what are you doing? You got to open up that fist." And the baby face has a little argument with the ref, and then he gets T-boned. He gets blindsided by the heel, and that's the cutoff. The whole trajectory of this match has changed hands because the baby face let the emotion get the best of him, and he started doing something he shouldn't have done. He got reprimanded by the referee for the rules, and that's what led to the cutoff. Just
Right.
I feel like there's no creativity because there are no rules. There really are no rules unless somebody needs there to be rules for a finish or anything. I feel like there's just no rules, man. We always talk about it's spotty, it's spotty, it's spotty, and these guys, there's no psychology, there's no storytelling. Well, there can't be a lot of times because there's no rules.
Absolutely. And Sparky mentioned that exactly what you just said, which is, well, I'll enforce the rules if you need it to be a factor in the match, right? But as you're talking right now, it just made me think. I just watched a match. I sent it to you, but I don't know if you got an opportunity to watch it. But I just watched this match, and it started off these guys fighting on the floor, right? They're hitting each other with all types of weapons and stuff like that, and then they slide in the ring. There's some other action. The guy goes for a cover, and the guy puts his foot on the ropes, and the referee is like, his foot's on the ropes. It's like, you just allowed these guys to fight all over the outside. You let these guys hit each other with chairs, but now this is illegal. Got his foot on the ropes. So I'm not gonna count to 3 because the guy's foot's on the ropes. And I think we see that in a lot of different matches that you go, um, there's no disqualification, all these, there's stipulations, but then you see a rope break and you go, like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Like, no concept of what's going on, except for the referee in his head is like, this isn't the finish. There's his foot on the rope, so I'm going to break the count right there. I'm not going to count to 3. So they're just, obviously, like you said, there has to be established rules so everybody knows what's going on. This situation always ends in a disqualification or reprimands of some sort. So, I don't know. And you think about, he Sparky talked about Rick being a great heel because he would cheat, but the referee wouldn't see it. And you just think about like the old school guys that would just turn their back to the referee. They just get themselves in the way in the referee's vision while they're cheating. You're punching the guy in the face, you're hitting them in the throat, or whatever. And it reminded me of a story that I heard uh, of a heel talking about he was reaching into his tights and pulling out the foreign object and catching the guy with it and then reaching back in and stuffing it back into his tights. And somebody asked him, so like, what do you use for that foreign object? What is the thing that you're taking in and out of your trunks? And he said, it's nothing. I just put my hand down my trunks and I pull it out, and the fans think I got something in my hand. And I hit,
100.
and I hit him with it, and then I shove my hand back in my pants, and the fans think I put it back into my tights. And it blew my mind because I'm always used to, whatever it was, it's a stick or whatever, and it's got, athletic tape on it, so it's a visual thing. But this guy's talking about how he was working the crowd so much that he didn't have anything in his hand, but he was reaching into his tights like he did and hitting the guy, and the guy was selling. Obviously the guy's selling for him, and then he turns his back to the ref and puts his hand back into his tights, and it just, like I said, it just blew my mind. I was like, oh shit, man!
Well,
Like,
which is
what an
great.
idiot I am.
No, it's not that you're an idiot. It's we are suspending our beliefs. So when you ask guys like, "Hey, do you have a foreign object to use?" They think that you physically have to. I wrestled somewhere. I don't know if I wrestled. I might have been in the match, or it just might have happened. But somebody used a chain or a weapon and then threw it out of the ring, and it's the manager's right over here, and he throws the chain the opposite way, and it lands at the feet of like a young girl in the crowd in the front row, and security runs over and picks the weapon up and disposes of the weapon. Security, not even involved in the match. And I remember going up to the guys afterwards, and I said, "Hey, next time you use a weapon, just either tuck it back in your pants or at least throw it to your manager," because you had a manager on the outside. I'm like, you literally just threw this illegal object and it hit a little girl on the foot and rolled under her chair. And the security guard ran over and picked it up, and like he was part of the show. You know what I mean? And it's like, guys, if you're gonna use it, it's probably best that the guy didn't use a weapon, because it's like the gun thing. You go rob a bank. Do you really pull out the gun, or do you just sit there with your hand in your pocket like, hey, hands up, everybody, and empty out the registers? Because that's what this guy did. And they worked everybody. And that's what the business is about anyways, is working them over. How about my favorite one? Here's another classic. I got lots of scenarios with the rules, because if we're just gonna throw them all out, the rule book, I bet you if you ask a lot of these young guys, promoters, everything, hey, explain the rules of pro wrestling. I mean, they're not going to be able to do it. And the double down, you got a damn double down, and the ref's going 8, 9. One guy gets up. He's like, okay, they're up. No, one guy's up. The other guy's not to his feet yet. So because one guy got up, you just okayed this and the match is still on? No, both men have to get to their feet. That's why the finish of the last man standing match a lot of times, and Rocky Balboa versus Apollo Creed, was, oh, we're pulling up and one guy fell back down. Both guys got to get back to their feet. So if you do a double down and the referee stops the count at 4, 8, whatever, because one guy's up to their feet, no, even if this guy, which probably the heel, is going to get up first, still keep the count going until the baby face is up. And what that's going to do is that's going to keep the crowd engaged in this double down until both men get up, and they're probably going to get behind it's like we were talking about the other day. You were saying with the Ballards, the video game meter. The video game meter. Here's the heel. He just got hit with something big. Oh, he's down 8. The heel pulls himself up and he's dazed, and the babyface yanks him. Go. And then now the heel's like, oh shit, I gotta get him. And now the baby's like, no, now I'm starting to build some steam. Because when that comeback happens off that double down or whatever, a lot of these guys, they just go from what we like to call 0 to hero. You've been selling for the entire match after you got cut off, and now this has happened and we're coming up, and now you're just like, oh, You know what? Clothesline, boom, boom, boom. Not clothesline. Oh, God. Clothesline. Duck under, move. Oh, it's called offensive selling. So we got to bring these damn rules back, man. And I don't mean that. No, I do mean, I guess. I'm saying it's professional wrestling. We got to bring the rules back because guess what? If we don't need the rules, if there's nothing to enforce, then why the fuck are we having stipulation matches?
Right.
Of
Absolutely. And I think your point about the double down is you could use the double down as guys don't give up. So there's a double count out, or double count out right there. So nobody answers the 10 count. So you got a draw right there. So you could definitely use that as an option for setting something up like a last man standing match. These guys, neither one of them got up. Now that's a reason. We talked about we could do a whole episode on stipulations, but there's one right there that you could easily do
to get to it,
based off right, based
there's
off
the
of
double
just
down.
the double down. Yeah,
These guys didn't get back to their feet. Oh shit, it's a draw. The fans want to see more. They finally pull themselves back up and they want to keep going, but the referee waves it off and says, "Sorry guys, it don't matter if the crowd chants that stupid chant of 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. Nope, this one's over. You guys didn't get back up your feet. You didn't get back to your feet by the time this one's over. It's a draw." And those two guys come back and they go, "If I would have got back up to my feet, I was feeling the momentum." And then somebody says, whether it's the commissioner, the president, or whatever stupid name they're giving somebody, or it's just the two guys or the manager, and he goes, "One more match. And this time we're going to make sure that doesn't happen because both men, it's going to be a last man standing match." You know what I mean? Who's the
right,
last man standing? Because one guy's got to get back to their feet before the count happens. I think that should be a rule too in a last man standing match. Before you start the 10 count, one guy's got to be back to his feet, not just counting by when both men are down, because you're just basically telling the audience, who gives a shit? Are one of these guys going to be able to pull themselves up to their feet, or one guy's up to his feet? Now the other guy's got to pull himself up, or at least save that final pull up spot until the very end. What if the baby face hits his big finishing comeback? He hits his big move for the comeback and they're going to pull themselves up and the baby face can't pull himself up for the double down. And the heel wins by technicality. The ref stops the match. He goes 9, and the heel gets up, and baby 10, and the baby never gets up to actually get his comeback. You're like, whoa, what just happened there? Ladies and gentlemen, the referee has stopped this contest due to the fact that this guy was unable to get up to the 10 count. Your winner. Ah, does a title change hands? What would it seem like a title change hands and you could run that guy back out and he can say, no, 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 no. Pinfall, submission, or knockout. I didn't make it up to the 10 count, but that's a count out. You did not, even though I was in the center of the ring and I wasn't outside the ring, you did not beat me. This title is not changing hands. And these are just things that promoters can, like, we're giving you some scenarios in gold here. Like, guys, there's so many different ways to finish. There's so many ways to grab some real heat. That Tom Brady tuck rule. We're gonna pull the chains on this first down in the fourth quarter. We know it's a first down, but they're saying, nope, he's an inch or two short. I just watched the chain. The chain came up short of the football. You know, little details that mean so much are gone.
right.
Got to bring them back.
Absolutely. It's going to take the promoters to do that, though. It's going to be one of those the situation where you gotta really put a lot of emphasis on those rules and establish that if you're breaking the rules that you're going to get disqualified, and so kind of lay that out in the storyline. If that's what you want to accomplish, if we want to get back to the olden days, back when we were doing it, at a high level. Um, yeah, you
So
definitely
we
got to do
thought.
that, right? We thought we were doing it, but yeah. So yeah, you gotta the promoters need to do that. Everybody has to get on the same page, otherwise fans go to two different promotions and one promotion's doing that and one promotion isn't, then it really doesn't mean anything, right? Because you're going to be like, oh well, the same situation happened at the show down the road, and that wasn't a count out, or that guy didn't get disqualified. So why is this guy doing it? So, and we've talked about that in the past about just having similar storylines, right, with characters. Like this guy's a bad guy at this promotion, but 20 miles down the road, he's a good guy. So, and you're not, you're putting putting guys together, or your two guys are feuding at this promotion, but they're tag team partners at the promotion down the road. So that's one of those things. I mean, we've talked about this for decades of everybody getting on the same page and working together. And somebody even mentioned that to me about promotions in Reno. It's like, oh, you guys got to all get on the same page and work together. And you know everybody thinks that it's, well, you have a McDonald's here and you got a Burger King there, and they can both survive. And it's like, well, depending, right? You have to be able to do the both put out a really good product. McDonald's and Burger King are the maybe the exception to the rule. We have a really good franchises on both sides there, where you can really get that thing going. But if you don't have that, then one of those things has to go away.
Charbroiled or the heat lamp. You make the decision. Mac sauce or that sweet baby Ray's barbecue sauce coming up in the building, baby. Uh, we talk about it all the time, and you could get with these promoters. I remember sitting. AEW did one pay-per-view back. It was probably like 4.5 years ago. I forget which one it was. Maybe it was Revolution, but it was in the theaters. So me and all the guys from class, we left class on a Sunday and we went and bought our ticket. There was about 13 of us. We went and bought a ticket to watch it on the big screen. There was only one other person in the building watching it besides us in the theater. And I remember it was so cool watching it in there because it wasn't like watching a normal movie. You didn't have to be quiet. You could watch this in the theater on whatever high definition cinema. And I remember it was MJF and Darby Allin, and I remember sitting there. I think my knee might have been hurt at the time or something, but I'm just watching these guys go out there and what they're doing to each other. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, this ain't pro wrestling, but I'm watching it and I forgot who it was, but I looked over at him and fuck, I said, look at that. I'm like, I might as well quit. He's like, what? I'm like, I might as well quit because I will never be able to do what these guys are doing again. And there was no storytelling, there was no psychology, there was no substance to what was going on. It was just concussion after fold up on the head, after just crazy move to the floor on the apron. I think if you land on that, I think if you get a pile driver or something on that apron, we better bring out the flatboard. You know what I mean? Like this is a dangerous situation because you get over here on this one product, and we were talking about the different shows. You get over here on this one product, and you got these guys doing a thousand. What's that damn move called? I wrestled.
Destroyers, yeah,
Yeah,
the
Canadian Destroyer.
destroyers.
And then the other guy's doing a package pile driver in the center of the ring, and they're carting on one product. They're carting this guy out of here, and Randy Orton for that instance, and he's been out for like 2 or 3 months. And in the other program, they're just check it out. This one isn't even going to get us a false finish. As a matter of fact, I might take this move and get up and go, oh, Japanese strong, shining wizard strong style, and I don't sell it and come back. That was weird about Japan, is like the way when they finally decided to sell something. I'm like, well, you basically just murdered this guy and he didn't sell nothing, but then you hit him with like a little DDT on his arm over here, and now he says, oh my god, I'm in such agony, I can't believe this. It's like, come on, man. You guys got to just, if you sell it, they're going to believe it. and you're going to make it easier for everybody else on this damn roster, little tour of the place we're going, maybe we can start making some money. Maybe we can start generating some actual fans to the product over here. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Like, obviously, we have a lot of that, and we've talked about it. I feel like at nauseum. Right? I made that point about the Mick Foley off the cell, right? Where it's just such a dangerous scenario that you're putting yourself into. But it triggered this, I feel like, wave of people thinking like that's what I need to do to get people's attention. I need to do the multiple finish match. I need to do throw me off the highest thing and onto the concrete floor. Uh, just these moves that you're thinking are like, oh, this dude's going to get disabled based off of this move. Uh, how it gets so crazy like that, and that's what people think that they need to do, rather than. And I don't know if what it is people are they think it's too boring, maybe. I remember a situation where I was asking a guy at a wrestling school, like, if they're doing chain wrestling. It's like, oh no, they don't train any of that. And I was like, well, why? It's like, oh, well, it's just kind of boring. And it's like, none of us want to do that type of stuff. And I was like, well, whoever's training you are fucking idiots, because that's what it should be based off of. Let's wrestle each other for a little bit. Let's get to the point where somebody is, out wrestling you, and that's the story. A guy's out wrestling you, so you get frustrated, and you go, well, fuck, man, I got to take a shortcut here. And it doesn't always get back to cheating like we talked about. It could just be you take a shortcut, like, you don't, it's not a clean break or whatever. You do something underhanded, and a lot of times it doesn't even have to be like a something that's cheating. It's just something that you go, well, fuck, dude, that was mean. Like, it was overboard. It's not against the rules, but it sucks. Like, he's a dick for doing that. Uh, and then you can start your heat from there. Start heating the guy up and beating the guy down.
Is it illegal to take the other man's singlet strap off and chicken wing his arm back behind him and pin it in his own? No, it's not. They used to chicken wing their arm back there and hit him with a body slam. And I have seen so many places and so many young guys come out of places where I'm like, the lockup isn't even good, and
Right.
you're like, at what point did we decide that, okay, that's enough? The one thing that we're going to do every single match, unless we jumpstart the match or whatever, but I mean, 9 times out of 10, every match, you're going to see some type of a tie up. And the waltz and the tie up is just shit, man. If I got to see any more, just walk a circle one way, stop and go. Because man, there's no snap on the lockup. Like the collar and elbow tie up. I'm gonna give this away to everybody right now, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, this guy thinks he knows so much, doesn't he?" But you're hitting that bicep. Whether you choose to move your hand in, which I do, to the chest to regain to gain some better center of gravity, but this arm right here, the left arm, it's actually stopping right here on their shoulder, and then when you're here on the bicep, and then you're reaching around to the neck to readjust it. So you're not just coming in and just grabbing the back of my neck. Like, if that should take a little bit of skill and talent to grab the back of my neck. You know what I mean? Plus, I don't want a guy just slapping the back of my fucking neck or the back of my knob spot right here. So when you land in this collar and elbow, this left hand is actually, oops, getting a little excited over here. It's actually stopping right here on the collarbone. And then you're reaching around and readjusting to cinch that thing up. So everyone's making the collar and elbow tie up one thing. Just bloop. Look at me. I'm ready to grapple. bloop, we're here. Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. They're not going, then cinch it up. Look at, remember back in the day, thumb wrestlers were like, all right, I got my thumb up Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper's ass, and we're just gonna start nubbing these two guys at each other, and that's what we're gonna. I mean, I've seen people with their thumbs up, two thumb wrestlers. I have taken two thumb wrestlers and put them up, my thumb up there, the hole in their ass where their asshole should be. And I've thumb wrestled these two guys myself better together than I've seen some people lock up with. It's like, man, take some time. Show these guys the lockup. Make them work the lockup 10, 15 minutes when they come to class every time, because damn it, that's something that's got to look good, because that's something everybody's going to have to do. And if you're one of those guys that your lockup sucks, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, let's not go any further into this. Let's get this tight, and then let's go on to get the next thing tight, because we talked about it the other day. You don't have to debut everybody at the same time, and you don't have to rush everybody through the training so that you can say you put out some product. Yeah, maybe this guy's a good athlete, whatever, but you don't have to, man. It's going to be a lot better if we have solid base training. And I've been the biggest offender of it. Oh my God, man. I've been the biggest offender of in the past, rushing people through training and throwing them out there just because we needed some guys, or they were getting, you always say, getting bored of the course. And it's like, man, if you want to do this, we're gonna do it, right? Like, there's nothing that's gonna stop you from doing it. So if someone, my coach says it all the time, and it resonates, and I say it to people, it's like they want pat. Everybody wants pat on the back. Oh, what did you think of my match? Was it good? What'd you think? Did I do good? And you go, I'm going to the gym. I worked out a couple times. It's like, man, this isn't shit we pat you on the back about and give you kudos and a little chew stick. This is something that you should be doing it. It's doing the things that you should be doing anyways that you want to pat on the back for. You should have a good physique. I went to the gym 2 times last week and pulled down on some cables and walked on the elliptical. Cool. Why didn't you do it 5? Because you want to be a pro wrestler. You should be doing these things. I hear you say it all the time. It's like, you should. You said the other day, I thought I was doing the guys a favor by having 4 classes a week. And I'm like, yes, I told you. I'm like, you did think you were doing them a favor, but there's that word again. Think. You thought from where you came from and how you trained that you were doing these guys a favor. You would go on your lunch just to get 45 minutes at the school, and you can't even get kids to show up for 1 to 2 classes nowadays. I mean, half these kids, there's a bathroom in the building, and I've seen guys not only just go outside to take a piss in the dark, I've seen them go outside and piss on the front door in front of a security camera. You know what I mean? Like, hey, buddy, we got a nice bathroom in here with some automatic paper towel dispensers and a nice brand new toilet. It's just, I don't call it lazy. I just think there's not a lot of common sense going on with this shit.
There's no doubt about that, man. You talked about debuting people and things like that, and we've talked about it earlier. But I was just making a comment to somebody the other day about when someone debuts, you expect them to get their ass kicked, right? Because I put it in the terms of, if it was an MMA fight, somebody's been training for 5 or 10 years, and a guy's having their first match. Um, that guy's probably going to get beat up, right? Unless he's some sort of prodigy. So you see so many debut matches, and for the most part, it's like you have a guy that's debuting. He's probably going to sell a bunch of tickets. He's going to come in there, a lot of fanfare and things like that. So you think it's a cool thing to do, like, oh well, I'll give this guy some offense. I'll give this guy a bunch of moves and stuff like that. It's like, but as the veteran wrestler, how shitty do you look if you're a veteran and you're not able to easily handle this guy that is having his first match? a guy's getting a ton of offense against you. How silly do you look? You know, and I know a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, it's not real. It doesn't have to be real. It doesn't have to, be realistic. It doesn't have to make sense." But it's just in my mind. Obviously, we've talked about this. That it's just I have this mindset where it's like it needs to make sense. Like if a guy's having his first match and you're 15, 20 years in, there's no possible way I think this guy should be able to outmaneuver you and things like that. You should kick the shit out of him, and uh, he needs to go lick his wounds and go, what do I need to get better at in order for it to make sense for the guy to come in and get some offense? And we've talked about the squash match and how you would get a guy to debut where gets a little tiny bit of offense and a little bit more the next time and a little bit more the next time, and you know build up instead of like you're talking about debuting a guy and somehow magically this guy is a really good wrestler after training for 6 months or training for a year, and now he's able to outmaneuver a veteran wrestler in all these matches. So I think that's another thing that we're sorely lacking. On top of the lockup, of course.
Well, the development of talent is like, and it's the old rule, the old guard. I've got into it with my coach plenty of times, and when I say I got into it, I mean he let me know what the fuck was up, and I sat there and I listened and I learned after all these years, 17 years apart, and I finally got my coach back. You know what I mean? Like whether it was Oliver John, Roland Alexander, Gabe Ramirez, Robert Thompson. I mean, there's just so many people that I've learned from. I learned from them. I learned. They coached me. I learned a lot of stuff. I learned the business. I learned the booking. I learned so much stuff from all these different people, but they were never my coach. And what I mean by that is your coach is going to motivate you. Your coach is going to stay on top of you. They're going to let you know if you're messing up, if you're being a bad influence, if you're, a cancer in the locker room. Hey, why are you treating this guy this way? They're going to put you in check, and they're going to make you. I went 17 years where I didn't have an actual coach. So to get my coach back, and then we start talking about all these different scenarios that go into this stuff. They're just amazing conversations. And one thing I'm noticing is what's really changed about wrestling is you just said it. So we're a new wrestler in this business. First thing we have to learn out there in listening is we got to learn how to sell, right? We got to learn how to sell and listen and learn to fight from underneath. So a new wrestler that you're debuting realistically should be just a little snot-nosed baby face, you know what I mean? Just like he says, a ham and egger, a jabroni, and you should learn to do that because the heels in the business are the guys that look at Rick Luxury. He's got a belly on him. He's not the prettiest guy in the world. I think his wife would beg to differ, but he's not the prettiest guy in the world. He's missing a tooth up here. He's gritty. Vince DeMarco was another guy like that. Like as we get older, if we don't age well and we start balding and we get a little more out of shape, we're the guy that has to control the match and set the pace, and we're going to be easier for the fans to boo and cheer for the other guy because he looks better. So these guys have to. Usually, you do start out as the baby face, and then you work your way up the ladder, and then as you finally get a break, you're either going to shoot up as a bigger baby face if you're going to make it, or there's going to be a spot for you as a bad guy as you learn a little bit in the business. And everything's just so ass backwards now because when I've noticed when these guys get in the business, they're already talking to you about characters on their before they even started. I hate those conversations on the phone. Yeah, how much am I gonna make in wrestling? And I'm like, well, you ain't. Don't worry about making any money because you're gonna pay me first, and then I'm gonna teach you. Well, how long does it take? I don't know, dude. I can't tell you that. I don't got a crystal ball. I ain't rubbing the shit out of that thing. So I mean, back when we started, and we always go, we're the old guys now, Paul. We're going back to the days, and we're like, back when we started, oh, we had to work our asses off to get where we wanted to go. And it just was that you had to work because the guys were a lot harder on you back in. We talk about how it's a lot harder to get in the business than it was back then. It wasn't as accepting to do so. So, I mean, I always go back to you saying that, where you were like, man, I left my on lunch to go train for 45 minutes. I mean, enough said, right?
Of course. And I think it was, you think about like APW, that was a two year class, right? You had to train for 2 years. That's how you became a pro wrestler. And for me, it was around a year before I had my first match. And obviously, you look back at some of those first matches that you have, and you're just like, wow, I was terrible, right? Even though I trained for that long and put that many hours in, you just didn't get it at that point. You didn't have the psychology. You didn't understand what was going on. And obviously, all the things that we're talking about are trying to give guys a little bit of an education on different aspects of the business. And you said that you've had a lot of people that have talk to you about listening to the podcast and what they've learned from it, and I was in this situation, and luckily I had just listened to this podcast, so I knew exactly what to do. But I think and I think rightfully, so it's not, you don't know everything as a trainer, right? And we've talked about how you would never tell someone not to go train somewhere else, and I would never do that either. I would encourage people to go train somewhere else, because there's always things that people are going to teach differently, and people are a little bit more better at certain things, certain aspects where they focus on things. Think about conversations with Adam, right, about tag wrestling and things that you look back at and you go, that makes perfect sense. It's common sense maybe, but in certain situations, it's things that we don't teach. Like, we're not teaching tag wrestling per se, but there's certain things that you can get from guys that do a lot of tag wrestling, and things make sense. The cutting off the ring and not shooting a guy off of a rope that his partner is standing on, and things like that. So all of those things I think are so important, but there's so many places to get those things. And you talked about how many coaches or how many trainers you had trained under, and I feel the same way. Like, being able to get a little bit of things from a lot of different people is so beneficial. So I don't know. It kind of gets back to the same thing where we're talking about the guys when there's a seminar going on and they refuse to jump in the ring and roll around a little bit, versus the guys like the guy that you wrestled last time was very eager to jump in there. And I didn't know how green he was when he first showed up, just because the first impression. We've talked about the first impression, how great of a first impression this guy made. And I'm like, oh, this guy's been around. And then finding out that, whatever, however many 5 or 6 matches he's had, and going, well, shit, man, I'm glad the guy jumped in the ring, but now I know why also, that he's green. He needed to get some extra stuff, but it's it's so satisfying to see those things where those guys are hungry, and that's what separates those guys that are probably going to become something special versus the guys that are just going to be the regular, doing the same thing, working on the same promotion, never getting better, never going anywhere.
You know what I thought was funny the other day? Everyone always asks, like, "Hey, will you watch my match?" Right? Well, I remember my last two times that I've wrestled on a card, I've came back, or I usually go early on or whatever. So PCW, I'm going later. Your show, I'm always going first. But I've come back before, and someone says, "Hey, did you watch my match?" And my response to them the last couple times was, "Did you watch mine?" And I just thought their answer was hilarious because they were like, "No, no, I didn't." I'm like, "Oh, you." You want me to watch your match, but you're not watching my match. You haven't been in the business very long. I was like, just out of curiosity, why did you miss my match? Or did you see the finish to 400 fans in this crowd in this main event? Did you see what happened at the end of our show? And they're like, no. I was like, why? They're like, we were out in the parking lot cutting the shit or smoking some weed or knocking back a couple beers or jerking each other off or whatever. And I'm like, you do know, like, the reason these guys are in the main event and the reason these guys are actually over, maybe you should watch what the fuck is going on with this product. Maybe you should be viewing this. Why are you going to? I heard Big Ugly say it the other day. He was talking about people asking him to watch their match just because they think it's the courteous thing to do. But it's like, goes to Ugly too. I started doing this here recently, and I forgot to even mention it on the podcast till just now. But someone came up to me the last couple shows I've done and been like, "Hey, did you watch? Did you watch it?" And I went, "No." I said, "I wrestled. Did you watch mine?" And they said, "No." And I said, "Well, why? Why didn't you watch mine?" I have a reason I didn't watch yours because I just came through the curtain and I talked to the guy I was wrestling and I was changing. But why didn't you watch my match? It's like, why are you going to ask me to watch your match? And then it was the first time I ever asked this back to somebody. They're like, hey, did you watch mine? Oh, no. Why not? I'm curious. Why didn't you watch? Here's why I didn't watch yours. Because I will go back and watch yours on tape later. But why didn't you watch mine? You care so much about my knowledge and my critiquing, but I'm right out here in front of you putting all of this on display, showing you, I'm giving you a free lesson live in front of an audience how to do this, and you didn't watch my match. You're not watching the product. I remember when we were younger, we watched everything. We were at the screen or peeking through the curtain watching the finish to a show, whether it was a good finish or a bad finish. We wanted to know what this company we were working for was doing. Why are these two guys in the main event? What are they doing differently than me? And why am I not in this position? And what do I have to do to get in this position? Well, they're there. So why the fuck are you not watching what they're doing in the main event? To not be watching the main event of a promotion you're trying to work for, I think is one of the most disrespectful things you can do as somebody coming up. I mean, I get if you got to leave early, but yeah, why didn't you watch my match, dickhead?
Too much truth right there. It's because they were concerned of canning their entire match or whatever, right? More important things.
What is it? What is it nowadays? Where's Hey, what flavor you got? I got blueberry, pineapple lemonade. Here, try mine. Oh God, cotton candy and mixed with root beer. It's like, dude, you guys are sucking on the same dildo over here. What are you guys doing? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to drink after you, bro. I don't want to get sick, but I'll take this electronic dick and that you've been sucking on for the last day and a half, and I'll throw it in my. Do you got another cartridge that I can get strep throat on here, buddy? That would be great. Here we are. We got a
Uh,
minute and a half left, Paul. We just kind of zoomed through this one, and I felt like this was one of the better ones we flowed through. We just, you know, talked about the rules and we just kind of went off about some really good stuff, man. So I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna do what a lot of these wrestlers do nowadays, and I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna reach over there.
uh,
I'm gonna pat.
give myself, give myself the Horowitz.
Give yourself a Barry Horowitz on the back because you know what? I don't need anybody to critique my podcasting skills today because I believe I did a good job. Did you watch
Uh,
my podcast? Did you watch mine? No. I watched a few minutes. I was real busy driving to work. Oh, that's a good time to watch this podcast, as a matter of fact, or listen. You don't have to watch it
right,
when you're driving unless you want to
right.
see all of this up in your face.
That's it, man. The silvery grays looking good. Yeah.
Silverbacks over here. There it is, ladies and
Uh,
gentlemen. We're coming to a close here. It's been a late night. I got so much more to talk about. There's not enough time for us to talk. I'm Zack Primetime Reed, neighborhood friendly, all those good things. That's the 7 foot wrecking ball. Paul Isadora. We're going over.